Welcome to 45 Forward. I'm your host, Ron Roel. For several years now, I've been deeply involved in writing and advocating for family caregivers, especially those caring for their older parents. But more recently, I've come to realize there's a much broader spectrum of caregiving that requires attention. Grandparents taking care of grandchildren, families and friends taking care of those with disabilities, those aging alone who need care, and ever younger caregivers taking care of older loved ones. There's one area of caregiving, however, that I feel has been particularly overlooked, and that is caregiving for those with mental health conditions, both young and old. It's caregiving within a mental health care system that's severely limited, lacks resources and training, and frankly, is marginalized and stigmatized. And so today I'm gratified and privileged to be talking with Dr. Ellen Bassuk, a psychiatrist, researcher, clinician, and advocate, and her son, Daniel Schoonover, who has experienced a lifelong struggle with mental illness. Together, they've written a truly compelling book called Between Two Worlds, a psychiatrist and her son's quest for compassionate care. It's a deeply personal memoir. It's chronicling their journey together as a single mother and medical professional, fighting to protect her son and forging an alternative path that has allowed him to reclaim a life of independence, purpose, and community. It's a unique story of hope and also a call to action. So now let's meet my guests, Dr. Ellen Bassuk and her son, Daniel Schoonover. Ellen and Daniel, welcome to the show.
Thanks for having us.
Thanks for having us. I think the topic is hugely important.
Yes, it is. It's very important, and I really do mean it. I'm privileged to have you on the show. So I'm going to start off with some questions that have been suggested for me. And starting off, it's a question that often comes up. I'm going to first ask you, Ellen, and it's about when did you first realize you needed to that Daniel was somewhat different, and how did you come up with a diagnosis? I know it's not always easy. Having been talked to many caregivers about this, when did you notice this? It's like, well, it doesn't come instantly. It unfolds. But tell me a little bit about when you first started learning about the situation.
Well, it's a lifelong process, but it began in our situation when Danny was an infant, when he was 6 months old. Some of his developmental landmarks were different. And being a psychiatrist, I brought him to see someone, a child analyst, to find out what he thought about it. And it was the question of sit and wait. And then shortly afterwards, Danny developed some phonic and motor tics, indicated we weren't sure. But with the developmental issues, it was the beginning. But what evolved over time, and again, I said it's been a lifelong process, developed full-blown Tourette, which had huge consequences in the squeeze system, and very often in many people peak at age 11. And in the majority of people, it disappears in adolescence, which was David's course. But then he developed what looked like a schizophrenic break, which caused no end of difficulty, hospitalizations, medication, and an alternative caregiving. So it's been a lifelong process.
Yeah. And Daniel, for your perspective, I'm really gratified too to have your voice in this. About so what was it that you faced in terms of your diagnosis? What was made it challenging for you to live with this?
What made it challenging
Yeah.
for me to live with this?
Yeah.
Not recognizing right away my situation.
Mm-hmm.
It took me years to realize that I have a problem,
Mm-hmm.
and that I've been and as to what I've been diagnosed with.
Mm-hmm.
And um, it, it took me quite a long time to learn how to deal with it in my own ways. Along the way, I developed ways and tools to deal with it.
Mm-hmm.
Like when I finally got a part-time job working someplace, it caused the voices to become more, I would say, benevolent, and they quit doing what they used to do.
Mm-hmm.
But I used to like chew bubble gum to ignore them, bounce a tennis ball, but I can't get rid of them.
Mm-hmm.
I've never been able to do that. So it was most challenging at first when I was first hospitalized. Within 2 weeks of hearing the voices, I was hospitalized,
Mm-hmm.
and that's when things got most difficult because I spent a lengthy time hospitalized.
Mm-hmm.
I believe 10 months at one place called Arbor, and another month at a place called High Point. And it's not easy being like that and in an environment like that, and not fully being able to grasp the reality of it.
Yeah. Yeah. It is really difficult. I was in a support group a little while ago, and one of the facilitators did an exercise where they simulated having voices where you couldn't really to try to talk to someone while there were voices, that aren't coming through headphones, and it was just, it did give you a sense of how difficult this is and how people don't recognize it.
Well, eventually I did get some doctors. Um, some doctors have been better than others. Um, One of my very first doctors I thought was really good. Excuse me. I thought was a really good doctor. My mother didn't agree with that particular doctor, but that's when I was living in Cape Cod, and I would drive about an hour and 45 minutes there, and an hour and 45 minutes back to see that doctor. And apparently, at the time, I needed a tad more help, so I came and I moved to assisted living. And it wasn't the first time I was in assisted living. I was in assisted living before I became mentally ill.
Or been showing you a label, Romeo.
Label, right? Correct. Yeah. So just switching to your mom for a second, Daniel. So it was challenging for you, and what about you, Ellen, in terms of treating, schizophrenia, the challenge of that, but as a doctor and as a mother, it's your two
Well,
roles.
the problems really began prior to that diagnosis because the Tourette is a huge problem in the public school system. Hard to handle.
Mm-hmm.
People are not educated about what it is or how to manage it.
Mm-hmm.
So Tourette caused men in school course to be very different.
Mm-hmm.
The the schizophrenia once did, and also let me just say something about labels. Labels
Okay.
are very limiting. They tell you one aspect of the problem. They don't tell you what to do about it. They don't tell you the course. They don't. It's the DSM, which is a
Mm-hmm.
catalog of labels of mental
Right.
health disorders, um, just gives you a very small cut of what the issues are. And as a mom, schizophrenia was a devastating diagnosis. The literature, as you know, says that it's a deteriorating disorder.
Mm-hmm.
It speaks about it in very negative terms, which is not the case. And as evidenced by Danny and Dave's life, and by many other patients, it's but as mom and as a psychiatrist, it was hard to adjust to.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah. It's You get these diagnoses, and first of all, they're not that clear. I mean, there could
All
be
the heart.
neurodiverse conditions. There's schizoaffective disorders. There are all sorts of things that we really don't. We know a lot, but the more we know, we realize how much we don't know. And I'm sure that, I know that people try to pinpoint things, and it's not so easy to pinpoint. And as I'm sure you run into, Daniel, that people look for medications to say, well, this will treat this, and this will treat this, and this will treat this. But there's not often,
Well, one
well,
day
what.
you come to the end of the line
Mm-hmm.
with that. It's usually clozapine. It's not an easy medication to be on,
Mm-hmm.
actually.
Right.
My mother is pretty emphatic about me continuing clozapine, and I've had my doubts with clozapine,
Mm-hmm.
but I can generally handle being on it,
Mm-hmm. Yeah, but there are often side effects, and
But there are a lot. There's quite a few side effects with clozapine, and they're not
Mm-hmm.
good.
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
Such as being extremely tired, literally passing out at night, not getting to stay up late and watch movies and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And of course, there's the weight gain it causes. But I've been on clozapine for quite some time, and
Mm-hmm.
But let me interrupt to say something about diagnosis.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Diagnoses are only one cut of what the issues are.
Mm-hmm.
All diagnoses do not define the person.
So yeah, you're talking about the diagnosis that it's only a piece.
Diagnoses tell you one aspect of the
Mm-hmm.
illness. It doesn't tell you the whole story.
Right.
And they're deficit oriented. They don't tell you anything about who the person is. A voiceful diagnoses do not define a human being.
Mm-hmm.
A human being's wishes, hopes, aspirations, and who they are in the
Right.
world and who they want to be.
Right.
And they're very, very limited.
Right.
And the value of diagnosis now, if some of the major diagnoses, is they do direct you to medication. And I think that's the major positive aspect of it.
Mm-hmm.
But they leave out the person. Um, uh, these illnesses are only one part of a person's experience. They're
Right.
not the whole person.
Right.
Um,
Right.
they are not strength oriented, and they don't tell you who the person is in the world and what they want.
that's pretty true. I mean, it's a risk. Getting off clozapine, there are risks, and it's true. But getting medicated in a system like this, it's kind of like it's a machine that doesn't
Mm-hmm.
care about what my feelings are,
Mm-hmm.
and 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 anyway, there's it's difficult, but for the foreseeable future, it's probably going to be clozapine.
Yeah. I mean, yeah. These medications can help, but I agree with you. It's meds don't cure. I mean, they can help you manage, and I think that they basically, the problem is, as you were pointing out, Ellen, is that they don't address the whole person, and I think we are moving slowly, I guess, to what is called patient-centered treatment.
That's
Right.
completely correct. They don't address the whole person, um, at all, really,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
from doctor to doctor. They
Yeah.
don't. Not well. A few of them actually do address the person a little bit. It's not like all of the doctors are void of addressing anybody. So occasionally, a doctor I have a one of my doctors does address the person. He's a doctor that's
Mm-hmm.
semi-retired, and he lives in New York, and he addresses the person, and none of my other doctors do.
Mm-hmm.
And I was lucky to find such a doctor. Actually, it's really good to find that.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah. So my next question sort of tags along with that, the notion of the person, and I wanted to ask you, so the book is truly unique in that it has both of you in it, as opposed to just saying, well, your mom is going to talk about her journey. So why was it important for you to be part of the book, Daniel?
I beg your pardon?
Why was it important for you to be, a
Very
co-author of the
important. It
book?
involves my life, the book, in a huge way.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't contribute as much as my mother contributed to the book, but the book really revolves around my life a lot.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not going to say all the book revolves around my life. A lot of it um, involves my mother's history as well, which is also important.
Mm-hmm.
But my favorite thing about the book is that I could get my voices. We got an artist to draw and depict them, and
Mm-hmm.
it turned out really well. I'm very
Mm-hmm.
pleased with the book, and I've never gotten to be involved with a project like this before, so
Mm-hmm.
when there was an opportunity, I jumped right on it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
There are very few, there are very few articles, books, or anything that describe the life course of
Mm-hmm.
somebody with schizophrenia, because this really started from the time Danny was a baby
Mm-hmm.
and up until now.
Mm-hmm.
So it's many years, and it's a real chronicle of what can happen, both good and bad,
Mm-hmm.
around a major diagnosis like this.
Mm-hmm. Now, what was it like for you? I mean, so you, talking about the whole person, of course, one of the things that caregivers face quite dramatically are how do you remain a whole person and not just a caregiver? So what were the challenges that you? I mean, you're a professional doctor, you're a clinician. How did you manage this life?
Well, it was hard at times. I had many roles. I was running a nonprofit at the time,
Mm-hmm.
had to go to work. We had a lot of backup, and we created for Danny over time a treatment team that had a lot of people on it with so-called lived experience, people who had experienced major mental illness. And the team has been very, very effective.
Mm-hmm.
Danny has known a number of them for more than 10 years,
Mm-hmm.
and they have continued to support him. The challenges for me were many,
Mm-hmm.
had to do with how I take care of the kids properly, how I fulfill my job responsibilities, and how, if there's any time left, how I have a little bit of a life.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but it was very gratifying in a way,
Mm-hmm.
because it was wonderful to see Danny develop over time,
Mm-hmm.
become a independent person
Mm-hmm.
who has his own goals and wishes and lives independently.
Mm-hmm.
But it was many years that
Right.
it took, and a lot of work.
Right.
Yeah, I spent many years in assisted living.
Mm-hmm.
I was at Ecos for maybe 2 years. I was at Wild Acres for half a year. I was at a place called Side by Side for quite some time, and it pretty much drained the fund my grandfather left me. But those programs are, you always want to progress
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
and just gain more independence.
Yeah.
It's better to be independent than to be in
And
a program like that.
what we figured out over time is that the traditional mental health system doesn't have the resources or the
Right.
know-how to set up an appropriate support system. And we set up what we call a recovery-oriented treatment team,
Mm-hmm.
and it has been very effective and very stable,
Mm-hmm.
and has provided a lot of support for Dan.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, that's true. We did set up an entire treatment team for me, and I've known other people like that have had their own treatment teams. It's very effective to set up a whole treatment team. Um, you get a lot of support with a treatment team. It's really worth it. If you can get that, it's I've had several people right now on my treatment team I've got I got like 4 people on my treatment team right
Mm-hmm.
now, and they're good people.
Mm-hmm.
You know, it's not like I'm in bad company, and it's been extremely helpful.
Yeah.
One just um, one increment at a time towards, well, as much independence as I can have.
Mm-hmm. Now, how much is this is possible though without the guidance of your mother? I mean, it seems to me, Ellen. One of the blessings is that you have someone like you who really is at the center of it and stays with it, with
Well,
all the difficulties.
I think parents have to be very persistent and remain hopeful and keep working at it until things come together in an appropriate way. But there is a movement now to set up more so-called recovery-oriented teams.
Mm-hmm.
SAMHSA, the federal government, has highlighted health,
Mm-hmm.
home, purpose, and community as the core of it.
Mm-hmm.
And all of these factors need to be looked.
Yeah, the road to recovery is very daunting.
Mm-hmm.
And on the way, it's sort of a blinding light as well. And
Mm-hmm.
I'm not the only person that ever had to recover. There's a lot of things a lot of people recover from, and I've heard a lot of recovery stories, and they're all very inspiring nonetheless to me.
Yeah, but yes, and I think that but your emphasis on recovery, this, this is really important. I mean, I think that a lot of, well, at least some of the programs I've aware of is basically oriented toward coping, not recovery, really. How do we cope with a situation? Now, I assume that certainly people look to stabilize and then recover, but what you're suggesting, I think, is much more assertive and I think intentional. So,
Yes.
how do people find out a little bit more about these teams?
About these teams,
Yeah, this approach, rather.
Well, it's heavily in the literature.
Okay.
Uh, there's a group at Yale who initially promoted it. It
Mm-hmm.
has um, some resonance with some of the AA work, uh,
Okay.
with that kind of recovery. Because what we're really talking about is allowing a person to establish a life
Mm-hmm.
that's useful to them, and that the illness becomes one small part of it,
Right.
and learn to manage it. So
Mm-hmm.
the illness is still there, but it's not the dominant factor.
Mm-hmm. Right. So you heard that, Daniel. So that the illness is there, but it's not the dominant factor. Right.
Right,
So it's a person with an illness, not an ill person.
correct. And that it's very strengths oriented and empowering and very interested in what the person's hopes and aspirations are for
Mm-hmm.
their life,
Mm-hmm.
and that they can map out a life that's meaningful to them.
Mm-hmm. Right. I think that leads me to the subtitle of your book about compassionate care, and I think that that's an important word. Compassionate really allows people to kind of enter your world, Daniel, and I've not to the extent that you mentioned, but I have had a couple of people on. A man named Stephen Post, the director of the Center for Humanities and Compassionate Care and Bioethics at Stony Brook University here on Long Island. But it's it's. I had another listened to another man recently talking about just how much the approach, of the attitude of caregivers is important. And so this guy said he had a horrific accident and he had a long recovery period. But what he said was that when his nurse came in to take care of him, what he noticed about her is she came in every day and said, "You know what? I get to take care of you. Not like I have to take care of you. I get to take care of you," which is recognizing you and your potential as a person
And that's
And
the essence of the recovery approach,
right,
that a person is a person. The illness does not define them. It's
right,
just one small part of their experience.
right. Well, let me ask you something. What part of this recovery process, Daniel, did you find most valuable? Did
What part of it do I find most valuable? Um, when I get to get out in the community,
Mm-hmm.
such as, um, well, I would say, I'm just going to say, going to BU Center for Psychiatric Rehab has really been helpful.
Mm-hmm.
Otherwise, I'm isolated and introverted and um, not pushing myself to be able to get out and do something
Right.
like that. I mean, there's good people there. It's run very well. I've learned a lot there. I've taken a Reiki class there. I've taken a poetry class there. They have classes every semester, and every semester I sign up for. It's been 4 classes. They
But
quit doing
most,
online classes, so it's 4 every semester. I sign up for a week. That's 4 hours worth of classes.
Mm-hmm.
but most importantly, it provides a community of peers.
Mm-hmm. Right. So this is a center. What is it? The
It's the BU Center for Psychiatric Rehabilitation. It's part of BU, and they offer a whole range of classes. They provide for a whole range of people with mental health disorders, and it's a wonderful community.
well, I think
And
that
it's
is the key word, as you both of you said, Daniel. The community. You
yes,
keep you in a community, and so I think that you have made a lot of progress. I know you still say you hear voices, but tell me a little bit about. So your life now is within this community, and so you do other things. You have your pets, your interest in nature. Um,
I figure, how am I going to take care of myself if I can't take care of a pet? It goes to show.
right, right, right. Well, you're a caregiver too, and so and how has your life evolved, Ellen, in terms of your relationship with Daniel and also your own life as a caregiver, but now as a whole person yourself?
um, it has, first of all, it's been gratifying to watch
Mm-hmm.
Daniel grow and become increasingly independent.
Mm-hmm.
He's worked independently now for 7 or 8 years and continues to be more and more independent, handling his own finances, his own wishes, his own laundry. I mean, the details of daily living.
Mm-hmm.
Danny's very competent and taking care of all of that. So, in a way, he's matured into an independent person in the community with a pretty full life. Um,
Mm-hmm.
so that's been wonderful to see.
Mm-hmm.
And my life, as I've aged, because I'm old, um,
Me too.
are you old too? Um, it's given me the opportunity for really the first time because I'm not close up running nonprofits.
Mm-hmm.
I, I ran a nonprofit for 30, 40 years
Mm-hmm.
and was ensconced in that world. And I ran a nonprofit for homeless families
Hmm.
and did it for 35, 40 years. And we did the research on the original literature about the families and the kids. And I've had the opportunity to step away.
Mm-hmm.
Those organizations weren't with the same mission and ideals, been very gratifying.
Mm-hmm.
And literally, for the first time more recently, I have time to think about what I want to do. And um,
So I wanted to ask you, just in sort of closing, a couple of thoughts. First, um, Daniel, if you had one message then to leave for people who have gone through what you've been going through and still go through, what would it be? Can you think of one thing you would?
Oh, what message would I have
Yeah.
for people going through what I'm going through, and people that are members of treatment teams? You have to instead of living day to day, you need to think for the future, or you're less likely to have a future. It's very difficult to even figure out what I have to look forward to, though. I don't feel like I have a lot to look forward to sometimes.
Mm-hmm. But you're making incremental progress. I mean, I think for me that's it's hard to focus on because we look at outcomes in our society, but sometimes they're really incremental outcomes. You really need to stay with it. What about you, Ellen? What would you want the message to be for people who are on the caregiving side and the family side?
Most importantly, to understand that these illnesses don't define a person,
Mm-hmm.
that they need to set up compassionate recovery teams to support people through their life,
Mm-hmm.
that people with these dreaded diagnoses can do quite well.
Mm-hmm.
And they need to hang on to their hope, persistence, support, and empathy at all times.
Yeah.
And try to avoid some of the societal stigma attached to it.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And the entire healthcare system needs to relook at how mental health is dealt with.
Mm-hmm. A whole other show. Yeah, but it's true, and one of the things that it requires a fundamental shift of mentality, of framing. I think that certainly, for one thing, it needs to be recognized that while yes, so there are certain, I know that and we've heard of spectrum in terms of autism, but it seems to me that concept of a spectrum applies to mental health more broadly, and that we're all on different parts of the spectrum, but it's there are mental health issues for lots of people in mainstream life, and so it's not as if mental health is some a segmented marginal part of society. It's an integral part of society, and if we address it as people with these mental health issues, we will gain much more than trying to marginalize people and put them into boxes or facilities. So in closing, let me just ask you, if people want to find out more about your work, Ellen, or the book itself, I don't know, do you do presentations?
Sometimes the book is on Amazon.
Okay.
Well, there hasn't been a book convention yet.
No, the book is on.
Yeah, the book came out at the end of last year, right? So.
Yeah.
The book is on Amazon.
Right.
Really selling on Amazon.
It's published by Bloomsbury Press.
Okay.
If you need more information, that's the place to go.
Okay.
And prominently on Google and can be found all over there.
Okay. Well, I thank you so much for doing this with me. I really appreciate it. I appreciate your taking the time with me, guys, and I wish you all the best, and I hope to catch up with you again soon. So.